All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order, January the 30th, 2019, 8 a.m. Economic Development Authority. Are there additions or deletions to the agenda by anyone? Hearing none, we'll move to item 3, the bond resolution. Dan?
I believe Nancy will sure.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick introduction. We have Mike Rath from McGuire Woods, the bond counsel for Royal Arms, and there's a resolution in your packet. I don't know if y'all remember, but we had this public hearing back in late October where we talked about that this is for the Royal Arms Departments and for a housing bond, and we're able to do that because there's no housing authority for the county, and so we can use the IDA Act for that. As we talked about, they're able to do the 1% to 1% annual fee that we have as well. I think we had a description of what happens, what they're doing at Royal Arms, and they're here to answer any questions as well. But the resolution basically is the last action we have to do. The resolution approves the issuance of up to $17 million in bonds for this project. There are also some documents, a borrower loan agreement, a lender's
Funding loan agreement.
Funding loan agreement, and then there's some covenants that are also available. We've gone through each of those. We've given comments. The resolution you have is the final resolution. There'll be some modifications over the next couple of weeks, but it should close in mid-February. And yeah,
Do we have a copy of the resolution in the packet?
you should have listened to it.
I believe it was emailed as part of the packet of the resolution.
In this packet that we got in you?
Should have been last week. I think I sent it to you.
Yes, it came out in the packet that was emailed. Yes, Dan.
In here. This packet that, like the one that you printed for me.
I don't think there's.
No, they weren't printed. They weren't printed, but they were emailed to you guys. Yeah.
This is separate. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Copy is lying out here.
There's a copy out here, I think.
I didn't know what you've gotten. I'm sorry. We sent the resolution along with each of the documents.
The borrower agreement, the funding agreement, the declaration, and the bond resolution.
Right, and a little explanation. Yeah, hopefully you got that.
I'm looking for the repayment provisions.
You mean in terms of what they will pay? Mike, I'll let you refer to that. But there's a provision in the funding loan agreement and the borrower loan agreement that reflect the authority's fees and expenses and repayment. And the most important thing from your standpoint, in addition to that agreement to pay the authority its annual fees and expenses and any costs related to this, they indemnify, and then also there's no personal liability of you as director or of the authority, and that's clearly stated in both the bond itself, but also in the documents.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I did get that on the email, but also it had several pages about qualifications like the low income. What is the status of that, which it is, they are now? How long is that going to be that way? And I'm not sure that was clear.
Sure, and I'll let Mike speak to that.
Yeah, you made a good point, sir, that it's currently an affordable property that was financed with 4% tax credits and tax-exempt bonds, so there are affordability restrictions that govern the property currently. And what's happening now is the property's being essentially recapitalized with additional tax credits and tax-exempt bonds to rehabilitate and improve the apartment complex. And in that connection, in order to get the benefit of the tax credit equity into the complex and the lower interest tax-exempt bonds that you're assisting them obtain as a pass-through conduit, there are requirements that those affordability restrictions will stay in place for, I think the rule is for sort of essentially 15 years or so long as tax exempt bonds remain outstanding with respect to the project, or if there's a contract with HUD to accept vouchers that is associated with the project. That would be another condition that would keep those affordability restrictions in place. And I should also introduce John Fraser from CPP, the developer.
Sorry, it was a snow day today. So. That's right, Mayor. So there are several things that would maintain those affordability restrictions. We're requesting a 20-year HAP renewal, which is our Section 8 contract, so there will be restrictions associated with that. There'll also be an extended regulatory agreement with VHDA that will also, I believe, run for at least 20 years, if not longer.
Thank you.
Well, and also in that regard, the EDA would not be responsible for checking on that. That's going to be their responsibility in order for them to keep the benefits they have from a tax standpoint. They have to comply with that.
Yeah, there's a compliance monitoring agreement with VHDA, and we pay them a fee to make sure that we're doing what we need to do.
And I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, that's okay. I think you kind of answered it. I had a question. Does what we're doing transfer with the deed if they choose to sell it?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
There are certain circumstances like foreclosure, casualty, certain unusual circumstances in which the property can be released from those restrictions, but generally it does run with the land, and so subsequent owners would be required to comply.
Now, is this a resolution we need to vote on this morning?
Yes, sir. So the resolution before you approves the issuance of loans, approves the documents we referred to, and basically that's all it does. I mean, you sort of went through a public hearing and you approved the project itself back in October. So, and now the Board of Supervisors has approved as well, and so has the town council. So this is sort of the last step in that process. So it would need a motion, a second, and a roll call vote for the resolution.
Okay, further questions?
I'd be happy to make the motion, assuming it's had enough time to review it if you've not seen it. I'll make the motion to accept this for Monday.
We have a motion, we need a second. Second by Bruce. All those in favor, and we will go voice vote, Blanton, aye.
Llewellyn, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Baker, aye.
Daily, aye.
Stone, aye. And the motion is accepted.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we talked about the bond counsel, Mr. Graff, has some documents that we'll be executing, I guess, after all the meetings are done and sealing. So again, this should close in a few weeks. That's already, it was in that resolution, so we're all done. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes, and it's quite a packet there, guys. Does anybody have any corrections?
I did for the December meeting. I believe the meeting started at 8 a.m. The December 14th meeting
8 a.m., yeah.
instead of 10. And then also the motion to go into closed session is incorrect.
On the 14th?
We went into closed session under A1 for this discussion of part-time public relations position. And we went under A5 for discussion of prospective business limited to Abtech, Stevens, Main Street, Happy Creek. And under A8 for EDA loan programs, debt service, the market tax program, and accounting services. So I have a copy of the agenda that I'll give to Mrs. from that meeting. Yeah. So that was the agenda that we sent out, that we
Okay.
emailed out.
Alrighty.
And then also, as far as the resolutions, part of it might have been my fault. I was doing the recording. I think I did a great job recording, pressing the button at the right times. But on the resolutions, Greg Drescher also agreed to the second and third resolutions. We don't have his vote reflected. And then the first resolution, I believe Mark, you had already left the meeting. I don't think you voted on any of the resolutions. So, Mark did not vote, Baker did not vote on the first resolution. Yeah, that was all the corrections I had.
Anyone else?
I move approval with the corrections.
Have a motion to approve with corrections. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. All right. Unfortunately, item 5, we still have not been able to put QuickBooks to a level that would be corrected and official. So until we have that, we do not have financials for you.
We do expect to have those by February meeting.
As you heard, we certainly hope to have those by the February meeting. It's been a rough road on that. Doug Stanley, County Administrator update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, a few items to report on. First, the Development Review Committee met on January 23rd. Committee discussed projects in the county, including a proposed motor freight terminal on Winters Court. That's the access road off the back of the RSW Regional Jail. The Planning Commission, I think, will authorize to advertise for a public hearing on February 13th. DEQ has approved the plan for Taco Bell, and we're waiting to receive the permit from DEQ for final site plan approval. The final draft of the county's strategic vision will be presented at the February 5th Board of Supervisors meeting. That's 9 a.m. next Tuesday. I know several of you were able to participate in that process, and I certainly encourage you, if you're available, to come to the board meeting and see the presentation from the consultant. The committee also discussed town projects, including potential ice vending machine business on South Rural Avenue near Joe's Steakhouse. That's one of those kind of sea crates where you, kind of like you see at the beach, where you pull up and you put your money in and it vends out a bag of packaged ice. So I haven't seen one of those outside of a resort area, but I guess we might get one.
There must be a lot of need in Front Royal for ice.
Well, apparently, I maybe get on Skyline Drive. Maybe they need to get the rice for the drive. VFW special use permit review is with town council, and I saw that that looks like that was approved the other night, Mr. Mayor and Joe. Received updates in the afternoon at Dunkin' Donuts. Those projects are moving forward. I believe Dunkin' Donuts is actually closed in. Committee will meet again on February 27th. Reassessment at Wingate Appraisal, completed the 2019 general reassessment. I think in total we had about 480 property owner appeals that were heard by the Board of Assessors. The reassessment book was run and turned over to the Clerk of Court, Commissioner of Revenue. The final step is the Board of Equalization. We have appointed, the board's appointed 4 members and an alternate, is that correct, Dan? And once they're officially appointed by the Warren County Circuit Court, they will sit to hear appeals March 1 to April 30. They'll have set dates when they'll hear appeals. If anybody has any questions, we've actually set up a web page on our website that gives some explanation and talks about the appeal process and the number and email addresses to contact people to get scheduled for an appeal. Delinquent taxes, Pond Law Group held a sale of 13 delinquent properties on December 12th. Property is bought, sold for a total of $166,600. There were about $96,000 owed. A lot of that was paid off. Most of the properties sold for more than the amount of tax owed. TACS, or Tax, is the other firm that does our delinquent accounts. They will have a sale this Thursday, tomorrow, at 11 a.m. at the boardroom. I believe 19 delinquent properties are on that list as well. A lot of these are vacant lots. A lot of these places like Shendo Farm, Shendo Shores, but we have been getting good interest from developers, contractors, and other adjacent property owners that may be interested in acquiring the lots. We've got some extremely good news in the last 30 days on transportation. previously I reported, I think, that we gotten $15 million in bill grant money to build the overpass at Rockland Road, which really frees up the inland port for their train access, keeps them from blocking either Fairground or Rockland Road, will allow them to uncouple the train, service the port, come back out, reattach the train, and go on their business. Allows us for emergency service access from the North Warren Fire Department back into that Rockland area. VDOT, we had submitted 4 applications for smart scale, and one of those was the 658 grade separated crossing. In December, once we got word we received federal funding, we pulled that project. We have received word that of the remaining 3 projects, all 3 scored high enough and should be funded. Out of 70 projects in the district, the I-66 Route 340 South ramp extension, which is basically going from the Target Shopping Center back towards 66 to add a 3rd lane, which becomes the turn lane. Right now there are only 2 lanes and a real short turn lane. That was the number 2 ranked project. So all these are scored and ranked across our district and then across the state. Route 55 East corridor improvements, including rumble strips, safety signage, speed warning signage, fixed object hazard removal, types of things. That scored number 3. And then a project to provide overhead street lighting from the North Fork Bridge all the way up through Shenandoah Motors. That's a little about a mile and a piece. That one scored number 5. Thanks to Bob Childers. Bob, of course, used to work for VDOT, but a big part of that is obviously it's writing. You're basically writing a grant application. You're writing the project up and trying to get it so it'll score well. So we're excited. Obviously, it takes a few years. The first round 2 years ago, Smart Scale, we got Happy Creek, what we call Phase 4, which is the town limits out under 66, was approved for funding, and that has been designed. We've gone to public hearing. We'll go to construction January 2021. So that's moving its way through the process. So this is a good 4 or 5 years before you actually get design completed and funded and all that stuff. But these projects, this Commonwealth Transportation Board will officially consider them for funding in June of 2019. And assuming that happens, they'll move forward to funding. But we're excited about that. Rivermont Fire Station, which the EDA Board has been part of, with the new market tax credit line. That project is out to bid. Bids are due on February the 14th. And as you know, I think in the paper with the board, working with Davenport and Sands Anderson, is looking at ultimately permanent financing for all 3 of our new market tax credit projects, but the fire station included. We'll be submitting an application to the Virginia Resource Authority here at the 1st of February to meet their deadline. We're also working on a fire and rescue training facility up at the old ESA site off of 55 East, and we've got a draft site plan. We're working towards getting that conditional use permit application completed. Health and Human Services Complex, we are all but finished. We're working on basically punch list items right now. The registrar portion of the building will be completely other in the next few weeks, we hope. Lions of Borough Brooks Music Park. We received a commitment from Lorraine Holquist to donate, I'd say close to $15,000 to $20,000 to purchase the music park components for each of those 2 sites, and ones that Fantasyland have already been installed, and we'll be doing Borough Brooks in the spring. Lastly, commercial projects. I think Marriott's still on track to be completed this spring. Valvoline's well under construction. They've got the foundation in at Riverton Commons. And again, as I mentioned, Taco Bell is waiting for their DEQ permit. That said, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Where's Taco Bell?
Right behind Applebee's in the Rent Center. It's the last. There's one kind of gravel pad in there. And unfortunately, with the Valvoline and Mark's site out there, the urgent care is a little, access has been kind of detoured around while that construction is going on, but hopefully in 2 months they'll have that portion of the site cleaned up.
Any further questions?
Thank you, Doug.
Town manager update, go on.
Morning, everybody. Just want to go over a few projects and activities that the town's involved in currently. As the form gets passed out, basically, wanted to show right off the bat the chart of how many new dwellings we had this year, or last year, excuse me, for 2018. We ended up with 16. So you can look historically, started in 15 with 16, 16 was 14 and 20, so it's pretty consistent. The Planning Commission in December, they had one regular meeting and one work session. The Planning Commission also continued the public hearing into January for a special use application by United Parcel Services for additional truck parking behind 470 South Commerce Street. The Planning Commission denied that special use permit, and that will be forwarded up to council. Also, in addition, the Planning Commission had approval of our draft capital improvement program to town council. The VAR in December met, and they actually had a meeting over at the Afton Inn to review brick samples related to the renovation of the Afton Inn. The Board of Zoning Appeals did not meet. We did not have any applications. Community Development Block Grant. Obviously, the town was awarded $700,000 for this downtown revitalization project. The project team was formed, and we have several subcommittees dealing with the facade program, the town plaza, parking and alley improvements, signage, and branding. Staff is in the process of distributing the renderings from the architect to the property owners to determine how they want to proceed. Also, we're working on a scope of services for another downtown parking study. Dunkin' Donuts is approved and construction is underway. The EDA workforce housing, the site plan is approved and awaiting submission of permits for construction. Front Row Limited Partnership, we're basically waiting submission by the applicant. Happy Creek Knolls, Section 4, we're waiting resubmittal from the applicant. Hospital, obviously the site plan is approved and land disturbance activities are underway. In the IT federal site, Building 1 continues to be under construction. Shifting gears to town projects, the Route 522 corridor water upgrade and reliability study. We have hired CHA to perform a feasibility study that will identify the best routes and connections to the existing water network. Basically, the study will investigate constructability through VDOT, DEQ, Virginia Department of Health, crossing the railroad, crossing the river, as well as the interstate. We anticipate that this study will be back in our hands by late March, early April to move forward. Hampton Creek Road Phase 2, we did submit in the Smart Scale funding. We did score low. So we have to go back to the drawing board and see what on how we can reinforce our scores, as well as look at other revenue opportunities for that funding of that project. The new cost estimate for that project is $16.9 million. We're hoping for a proposed start date of 2026. All right, Main Street Extension. All curb and gutter work has been installed along the base asphalt for Main Street. Sidewalks are now complete, which was the last major concrete work that needed to be installed. Town personnel have been on site pulling cable for the main electrical feed along the west side of the road. Water main testing has been completed for the portion of pipe installed by the town, which is along Main Street. The portion of water main that goes along Transcend is IT's responsibility, but that is being pressure tested right now. Once it's disinfected and flushed, all water lines on site will be pressurized and active. The police department across the street here, town contractor Dustin Construction continues with site work to include that security wall and base pavement for the parking lot. Contractor continues with construction of both the main and support building. The project has slipped due to the rain from last year, as well as some of the soil conditions, but the project is currently 90% complete, with a substantial completion by March. The Rural Phoenix Lift Station, all gravity sewer lines and force main piping has been installed. The catch basin has been installed and the pump station itself is being stored on the site. The project is about 70% complete overall, with the remaining items including the access road, installing a pump on the wet well, running electrical lines from Main Street to the pump station, and then obviously getting the pump station certified for operation. Westminster sidewalk, this project started in 2014. We did complete the first phase of tree removals early last year. The project is scheduled to start in March of this year. If you have any questions or need any additional information, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
The Main Street extension, we're just working on this part right here.
Right, the first 800 feet.
Okay. Very good.
Joe, was that lift station sized for full development of this campus or what?
Yeah, it's actually designed for about 4,600 employees on this site, the whole site. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Our interim director, being introduced to the first full meeting. We're glad to have you, John, and ready for your report.
Well, good morning. And thank you for your consideration. Thoughts as our family experienced a significant loss last week when our son passed away. We appreciate it. Today is my 7th full day on the job here, working with the EDA. We missed last week because of that, because of Matthew's passing. But I think we're beginning to really identify the strengths and weaknesses of the internal organization and begin to move forward in getting a better handle on all of the operations of the authority. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about today, though, is my replacement. Short term, an interim director, and that's what you hired me to be, as an interim director. So included both in your electronic and in your hard copy board packet is a memorandum and an outline of the position qualifications, and job responsibilities, and a schedule for the recruitment process. The recruitment process is one which I've been engaged in many times in my past life in the private sector when I recruited this type of position for local governments. Fredericksburg, Craven County, North Carolina, a couple of other counties down in North Carolina. And the job specifications, the job responsibilities that are included in this package are framed based upon what I know of the organization, my research on speaking to some board members, as well as identified thoughts and needs of what the organization may be looking for in the future. This will be your director, not my director. So, if you have comments in regard to the job responsibilities, to the key skill requirements that are identified, please feel free to provide them to me and make the adjustments. Also, attached to that memorandum in your packet is a schedule of the recruitment process. And hopefully, the board will be able to react today. I know that many of you have had a packet for a short period of time, and you may want to give it some thought. But it is our proposal to begin advertising and recruiting the week of January, later this week. Excuse me, next week. Later this week. The week of February 28th through March 4th, we would be doing an initial review of applications. I'll be working with the county's Department of Human Resources when the application materials are due. We will provide you a more update on the recruiting process and the establishment of a firmer process going forward. But what I proposed is that at your February meeting, you appoint a 2-person committee to work on reviewing the applicant pool. I will work with Human Resources at the county level to divide the pool into those folks who most closely meet your specifications for the job and those folks that are not so close. But you'll have access to the pool of applicants. We would like the board, though, to have a committee to identify probably the top 5 candidates who have committed qualification materials to the position so that we can begin to move forward with scheduling of interviews. As we move through this process, I will also be working with Human Resources over at the county, Jody Statham, to develop interview questions for you folks, to develop the interview schedule, make sure that the candidates arrive on time, and that they're provided background materials on the authority so that they're prepared for the interview and you're prepared for the interview. Then it will be up to you to interview the candidates, make a decision, and begin negotiations with the candidates. We expect hopefully the initial interviews to take place and hopefully for the board to make your choice of the top candidate or candidates. It may require a second interview the week of March 25th. And if secondary interviews are necessary, that will take place the week of April 1st. And then the week of April 1st, possibly sooner, if you don't have a second interview, the board would be making an offer, negotiating an employment agreement with your top candidate. And the new director would hopefully be available to begin the week of May 6th. I've noted in the memorandum, based upon a review of some salary structures statewide, that a range of around $90,000 to $115,000 for prospective executive directors is something which would be reasonable for this part of the state. But again, that's dependent upon experience and qualifications, and you negotiate a package. That gives you a wide enough range to recruit younger professionals who have some experience, as well as maybe some mid-range folks who want to maybe move into a position in a region like exists in this part of the state. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have a question. When you advertise this with the various things that you put in there, do you just advertise you're looking for an executive director and these are for our information as to things we want to be looking at when the person applies? Or is that information given out there that, hey, this is what we are looking for before somebody actually applies?
That's actually, it will be mailed out to, one of the recruitment steps that I would want to take, because a lot of folks won't respond to an advertisement because they're really maybe not looking for a job. I would have to say, I told the board this, and I've told a number of members in the community that I've met today, you've had a tremendous level of success here in Front Royal and Warren County. The town and the county working together in economic development and the economic development results that have occurred. You created a lot of jobs, you've expanded tax base, and I was the manager down in Warrenton until 2001, lived in Warrenton until 2004-05, and just watched you folks take off and do something that I didn't expect from Warren County when I was located down there. So there's success here, and folks want to be part of that success. So a long answer to a very short question is that these criteria will be mailed out to the individuals. We'll recruit, we'll actually send out to members of the Virginia Economic Development Association and maybe some other identified folks in North Carolina who is most like Virginia as far as work goes and local government structure of authorities, so that they are encouraged to apply. Because if folks see a notice, sometimes they'll just look at it and they'll say, well, that's nice, but I'm not really excited about moving at this time. But if they learn more about the organization, they see what the organization is involved with, what it's looking for, they may be a little bit more excited about applying.
So these will go to specific individuals, or?
This will be posted on the county's website, on the Virginia Economic Development Virginia website, the Virginia Association of Counties website, the ML website, Virginia Economic Development Association website, and maybe the International Economic Development Council website as well. So it'll be a publicly noticed, and on the county's website, it'll be publicly noticed.
Okay. So we're really not using a professional recruitment firm or any sort of, okay. So I guess folks that are looking for this type of position are actively hitting those types of boards.
Yeah, and, you know, I would say that I was a professional recruiter and did probably over 220 recruitments for public entities throughout the country. So you have, I won't say the benefit, but I'm here and I'll be using whatever I've learned in the past to assist you in the process.
So you are a recruiter.
I guess so.
That's sort of another statement.
Based on your experience, what side of the application pool are we like to?
Well, you know, it varies from recruitment to recruitment from time to time. And I'm going to be a little bit evasive in my answer because you really just don't know. We're going to aggressively seek folks out. In the past, you know, 20, 30 years ago, applicant pools for any public position were huge. When I was recruited as a manager down in Warrenton, there were 212 applicants. For some reason, they selected me. I don't know why. But the fact of the matter is as I recruited, we saw from the beginning of my recruitment experience beginning in 2003 to when I left the organization, retired in 2017, I saw applicant pools dropping significantly. And there's a number of reasons for it. First of all, public sector work is not as attractive as it used to be. Secondly, there is a smaller demographic pool of people. I did a couple of national discussions with organizations and did some research. Essentially, a group that looks like most of us in this room is a huge group of people. But as you move down each 10-year cohort, it gets about 1 million people smaller. So we're growing from smaller and smaller potential pools until you get down to the young folks who are about, at the time, we're about 15 to 25, then it starts ramping up again. So there's more people coming in the future, but there's this huge, smaller group of folks to draw from. Yes.
If I may make a comment, I like everything that's here. I think it's ready to go. But answering your question, I hear that this will be posted, and he's covered all of the organizations where public administration professionals look for positions. And then it's also going to be targeted to specific people whom he may know, who we may send this to, so that we kind of go at it both ways.
Any further questions about our recruitment?
I would move we approve this and authorize him to proceed.
I would second
Have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No?
Okay, second item I'd like to discuss with you, and as I said when I met with you before you hired me, you'll get more formal communications from me so that you have something to work with prior to coming to the meeting in the future. But it just wasn't possible this past week. The proposed fiscal year 2020 budget for the authority. We are still analyzing the information. I have the budget about 70% complete. You will see a budget which looks very different than your previous budgets from the standpoint of what is going into both your revenues and expenditures, so that you have a better understanding of it, and you'll have an explanation of why we're making a specific recommendation. I hope to have that completed by the end of this week so that we can move forward and submit it to the county for their consideration. But until that time, we're just not prepared to talk much about it, other than the fact that it will be an operations budget which is reduced in scope as far as staffing goes. And we had a marketing manager. That position has been eliminated. That position is not suggesting for reinstatement. However, I am suggesting, and I am working with somebody that may be available in the future to do your financials on about a day-a-week basis. Somebody who's a CPA, has good experience, and I think will do a good job. And That will be included in the budget. You'll have a fuller explanation of that when we get to that point in time, presentation of the budget. So, Mr. Chairman, we may need to have a special meeting so that we can review the budget, understand it, and endorse it, and hopefully next week.
Okay, we'll see about that as time comes.
Yes, sir. Other items related to authority operations, I'm learning quite a bit as I go, I'm observing quite a bit as I go. I'm working with the county on forging an agreement for maintenance. The county is now doing our snow removal and salting. We do have bad weather on this building. That's because of some issues, I think, with some prior contracts. We're also looking at grass cutting of all public right-of-ways that the authority owns and authority properties in the future. And we're gathering that information for the county's review and discussion. I'm also looking at a number of policies. The authority does not have a cell phone policy, so we're going to recommend to the board cell phone policy at your next meeting. In addition, I know that if you've not seen it, you should have received an email last night from Queen Technology, Information Technology. Each of you now has an official EDA address, so you can email and receive email on that address. And we're doing that primarily because the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, some conversations with us indicated that they didn't really like, nor did prospects like, to receive, and they were a little skeptical of organizations that were getting personal emails and personal addresses. So each of you now has a bona fide WCEDA email address, and all you have to do is, if you have any questions, just contact Nathan to get it activated. He sent you some instructions, but if you have any questions, get it activated. We're also looking at some other internal financial policies, and I'm working with some person you may know real well, Carolyn Stimmel, the county's former finance director, who's retired, and working on developing those policies and also outlining for you folks as board members clear picture of where all of our debt is and how that debt is structured, and what the payment schedules are, so that you can keep track of yourselves if you wish to. So those are some of the things that I've been engaged with. We've had several meetings, and we'll be talking about a couple of prospects in closed session. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Is that what you received, Tom? Okay.
Thanks.
You got two? I bet it came up in junk. Might have sent it to me again.
Very odd password.
Very odd password.
Okay, that's good. I want to make sure mine was weird too.
This is where it comes in.
The passwords are changing in the world. They're becoming more and more extensive because of folks being able to hack into systems. I know mine is to log into the authorities computer. It's just a really strange one, but you got to do that.
Makes it easier for the Chinese.
Any other questions for the executive director? Anything else? Move on to item 9, old business, discussion concerning Main Street Market repairs. We certainly know we have repairs coming up. Anyone have concerns, suggestions?
Well, we have Jenny Lesser, who's joined us. She's who runs the Main Street Market. Mr. Drummond thought it would be nice if she came and spoke about what all's happening down there.
Okay, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Where do I start? When I took over the occupation of the building, it was in it needed a lot of work. It took us most of the summer to empty it out and get it cleaned up, and it wasn't until probably the last 3 months that we started finding the leaking problems. Apparently it was not a new leak, but it just wasn't showing up. And when we had the new ceiling put in, the bright white ceiling tiles made it really evident that there was something going on from the roof, because we started getting water spots, and the water spots got to the point where they're actually, it's leaking all the way through. We had a bathroom issue. Prior tenants chose to build a bathroom on top of a boulder, and I'm foggy this morning. The boulder had to be broken up because pipe had come from the toilet down and made 90-degree turns all the way around the boulder, and that made it almost impossible to be snaked, and it just turned into a really big mess. Pipes that were in the wall weren't connected to anything, and I don't know where the water was going. So that's been taken care of, and I'm very appreciative of that. We've gotten such an amazing response from the community down on that end of Main Street, and that was the whole point of doing this, is that I know that everybody here has to look at a really large picture, and you've got all these projects going on, but my focus is Main Street. It always has been. That's where my business is, my other business, and I care about the people on Main Street, whether it's the other retailers or the people in the apartments. And there was a need for so many things that in past years you used to be able to buy on Main Street, but you can't now. Greeting cards, you can't even buy office supplies. There was just so much that could have been done, and I went into it hoping that I could make a difference. I think we have, we're bringing in breakfast items, and we've got grocery items. There's a lot that we still need to do, but it will just take time. And
I believe we do have a contract for the roof. Is that correct?
We've already signed it? Okay, I just had someone down there yesterday, that's the reason I asked it. That Russell Roofing was down there yesterday giving their estimates. And I think we talked about possibility of whether we're going to do a shingle or whether we're going to do a metal roof. The problem with converting the shingle down there now is we have no sheeting underneath the roof. So constantly going to have to lay that down as well when you go to do a shingle roof if you choose to go there. So that's why it's expensive. Yeah. I don't know if we have any choice in the matter, but I'm just saying. I think we at least have one. How many bids have we gotten yesterday?
Nobody got back with me except Modern Renovation. We asked like 3 or 4, but nobody got back with Modern, and they are at $51,000.
Is that include the sheeting or
That's
not?
for shingle. It's like $144 for metal.
Did that include the sheeting or not? None there.
Remove existing roof, remove and install new oversized drip edge, ice and water shielding, install new synthetic guard underlayment, install architectural Camco 30-year shingle, new ridge vent system and ridge caps, inspect and repair, replace flashing as needed.
I think they're fitting that.
They're the ones who just did Fairground Road for us.
Well, Russell said they would have it did to you by the end of the week, and that's the best I could do. I had trouble getting them down there, so they were down there yesterday.
Well, it'd be nice to have 3. So, yes, sir.
Couple things. And I apologize if I offend anybody, because I'm coming in on the end of this project. Number one, short term on the roof itself, if it's that magnitude, it's $50,000, should we have an engineer or a structural engineer look at this roof and tell us what should be done, so that we know whoever we contract with is going to be doing what we need? That's number one on these 3 bids. And number 2, looking at what was reported last week in the paper, do we have an agreement for the purchase of this building? I'm looking at the director, wondering if, when we take on a project like this, if there shouldn't be some type of an agreement with in this case, it would be the town, from what I'm reading here, that they were encouraging this, as to who's going to be responsible for what and how it's going to be financed, and where the responsibilities are going to be, so that when we go forward, when we come into something like this, we know how it's going to be handled, and we're not kind of looking at it ourselves.
John, do you have an answer?
Well, we don't have an agreement that I'm aware of. I'll have to, Dan.
There's not an agreement that neither the town nor county back the debt service when the EDA bought that property.
So who pays it?
The EDA. And it's basically they pay the debt service based on with the lease payments they get from renting out the property.
Do they match?
No,
No.
somewhat. They match exactly, but they match closely.
Yeah, Mr. Daly does make a good point. All of our projects should have an agreement in place, and you should, as a board, clearly understand the property that you're taking on, the responsibilities that you're taking on, the income stream, and what the condition of the property is. And if repairs are needed, who's going to pay for those repairs? And that will be something we'll be developing the outline for during my tenure here, for your next director, and should any other projects arise during my tenure. But you do have this project which is ongoing.
It's here now.
You do have a tenant who is trying to do good things for the downtown community, and it is an EDA-owned building. We are the landlord. So consequently, we have an obligation to take care of those types of deficiencies in lieu of, or without an agreement. It's our building, we have somebody running it, we do need to take care of it. So we're on the right path of getting the roof taken care of. I would suggest that, whoever has been instrumental in developing the specs, if anybody's been developing the specs, or we're just getting estimates, that they start coming into me so that we can review them and we can compare apples to apples, so that when we do come back to the board, you can make an informed decision. We have all that information in place.
I have the, and I agree with all of that. I have the impression that these roofers are submitting their own proposal, and as they view the building, that there is no generic spec that says we want, that an engineer has looked at and said, we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think that's correct.
And I'm concerned where we're going to end up without that we're not going to have what we're looking for exactly. And I think we just need to be cautious if we do this. We ought to have.
One along those lines, I agree with you. I think we need to do that. I think we also need to explore the possibility of selling the building. I've had 2 people names brought to my attention over the last week who may be interested in buying the building. I don't know where the rest of the board stands on it, but I've had some conversation with Joe. He doesn't think the town was instrumental in pushing this. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, correct.
And unfortunately, I think that was the impression, at least that I had. I don't know whether any other board member shared that. I don't know whether it was in private discussion that it was shared to me that was the case.
That was, I heard.
And Greg had the same feeling. And obviously, when we have the opportunity to do something that the town or the county asks us to do, we want to try to take advantage of that and do it. In retrospect, we paid too much for the building. I don't think there's any question that we did. I think now we've invested to date probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $65,000. Is that about right? And now we're talking about investing another potentially $100,000+ if we do a metal roof. I think maybe we ought to take a harder look at letting someone else bear that responsibility. I don't mean that we can't do it, but I don't think if you get an appraiser to come in and look at that building now and say, we're gonna add $100,000 to it, I don't think he's gonna add the fact that we've got a new roof on there. You're not gonna come close to getting that $100,000 back. I'd be lucky, I think we'd be lucky to get half of it back. So, I mean, I think we have to make a decision at this point whether this is something that we want to continue putting money into in hopes that we can get the equity built back up in it and sell it at a later date. I mean, we're not technically in the landlord business, although we do have those from time to time. That's not really, I don't think, what our focus is, personally. So,
And Ms. Lesser does have an option purchase.
pardon me?
She has at least an option
Yes,
purchase, so we
yeah.
can make, okay, just so everyone's aware of that.
Yeah. Is there agreed upon price to purchase at a later date?
I don't think it's from me, I believe it was the remaining price.
I think that's what I understood, is that whatever was owed on the principal and the loan.
The original loan.
Really?
That's my point, that's my entire point. You know, we bought the building, I'm gonna use it, I don't know, we were in the 400s, I think, when we did it. 440s, I don't remember what it was. Okay, we've added 60, we're talking about adding 100, but we're willing to sell at a price that we based on, you know, $150,000. No offense to that. But I mean, I think we have to understand what we're doing. If we're gonna lock ourselves into a sale price that doesn't reflect the improvements, what are we doing here?
So the outstanding debt is approximately 150.
No, it's
No.
450.
It's 450 plus the 60 we've already invested, and we're looking to do another 100 potentially.
But the agreement that allows the tenant to purchase the building.
At the original, I think that's what they're saying. I've never seen the contracts, I don't
All
know.
right, let's see what they.
I'm getting a paralegal to email me a copy of the lease.
Okay.
I have a copy of the lease with me.
I think at the time that we signed the lease, that was before the roof, the bathroom, the heating and air
Yeah.
conditioning, all of that became an issue.
And it does say the lessee is responsible for normal repairs and maintenance, but, you know, obviously major repairs.
And I'm not trying to overburden the potential purchaser or the leaser, but I think we as a board need a better understanding of what we're engaging ourselves in.
Yeah, I think probably it'd be best for the staff to put together with you folks about what needs to be done to the building after it's carefully assessed by an independent party. And that we look at the options at that time and provide you a full understanding of what's in the lease and what the board's options. But at the same time, we're going to continue to solicit estimates for the roof should you decide to maintain the building.
So 2 tracks. One is the future of the building and the second is the roof.
Yeah.
I want to put my little thing back in here about having an engineer or a structural person look at this and say what it is we need to do with that roof.
I don't think anybody at the board or myself is a roofing expert.
No?
And we do need to have somebody help us understand exactly what is needed because we could get a very wide range of estimates.
And it says $50-some thousand, and
Yeah.
I don't know enough to know whether that solves the whole problem or
I'm
not.
a little surprised that that includes the sheathing on that, because the sheathing for that building is going to be substantial. So, I mean, just the sheer size of it, I mean, he did say underlayment. I don't know whether he's talking about underlayment on top of the sheathing or the sheathing.
Underlayment is different from sheet.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Are you thinking the same thing, Mark?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I'm assuming it wouldn't surprise me if the sheathing on that building is not $30,000.
It could be.
So, yeah, that's why I'm sitting there thinking, okay, how's he gonna do that and do the other things?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah, but I agree, that just speaks to having an engineer or
So that sounds good.
We want to make sure that as we work through this, whatever we bring the board for discussion, it's apples to apples comparisons, and that we cross our Ts and dotted our Is. And I think that begins to get us there, particularly on this project, but there are other projects we'll be doing that on as well.
Thank you.
There's also the air conditioning, the heating. I know, I'm sorry, it
You don't
feels
have-
like I'm just, I'm making payments on the electric bill because we have the heat set on 63. And The electric bill for last month was $1,488, and it was $1,572 for this current bill. It is shockingly high, as far as I'm concerned. It's a big building, I know, but we have everything turned off in the front office, and
I spent some time in the attic down there, John, there was no insulation to speak of at all. So, it just keeps getting worse, but I've never been in, well, I shouldn't say that. I worked in that building 35 or 40 years ago when I was in high school here. I worked in that building for a while. And it doesn't surprise me that it's not much insulation up there, but in a good bit of, there's no ceiling insulation at all with the metal roof in there. And on the floors, in many cases, you can look down at the top of the tiles from below. So you're looking directly on tiles with nothing else in there. And, it's kind of like a can of worms. You open it up, you don't know what you're going to get. And, the more you look, the more there is to do. And, I'm sorry that we've put ourselves in this position, but we're there. And now we just got to figure a way out of it.
That will be part of our assessment as well.
Okay, I think we've given John enough to do on this. We look forward to a report from you concerning that. Any further discussion on that?
Thank you.
Staff comments. Missy?
No, sir.
The one thing that I think you're going to be involved with is the ability to bill for solar panels and electric to all of our residents.
Yeah, I didn't touch on that. We met with Queen Technology, the installer, yesterday, and we got a chance to tour the basements of both the east and west sides of our buildings here. And we are in the process of linking up the software for the panels and what they're producing and how they're working and where the power is being distributed to internal sources here on our computer system, so that we can monitor how the system is performing and then begin to bill for the system, the electricity, which is now being produced as part of the solar.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, real quickly, back to the Main Street Market, I just got the lease email to me. It is the remaining principal on the trust, is how much the option price would be.
So no anything about fair market value or?
And that was I guess Ms. McDonald and Ms. Westred negotiated that in advance, is my understanding.
And Jennifer always said we weren't in the market to make money off of the sale of anything we owned. It was just to help the businesses. And
well, and my understanding is that my rent payment was paying the note plus the flood insurance payment. So that's, so that it was leaving the EDA out of having to put money out each month.
it doesn't quite make it, but it's close. It went up like $3,000 this year, flood insurance.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk to you about that because I've had another estimate on that.
Okay.
What's that? That's what?
I think that's been paid.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the flood insurance has been paid. It was
Yeah, it
around
was.
12.
It was 12, yeah, that check, yeah, so that has been. Any further questions or comments concerning Main Street Market?
Is I'm sorry, just one thing. When you get the estimates for the roof, will that include guttering? Because I know that the guttering is missing off the back side of the building, and that's why the bricks are.
I think you did say that
I didn't answer.
in that first piece.
That gets back to what John's talking about.
We're going to assess the
Okay.
structure, so,
Yeah.
part of that will be meeting with you
Okay,
and
all right, just looking.
finding out your
How much
concerns.
is left on the principal?
440.
So was it 441?
Yeah, I think so, 441.
Anything else on that? I guess to director comments. I have no further comments. We are entering closed session part of our agenda, and I would like to read today. We will receive information from our consultants, which we, as a board, will hear for the first time. The information will provide us a direction of how we will need to proceed as a board as we work toward better understanding the actions of our former director in operating the authority. To ensure that we, as a board, have a clear understanding of the information and make the best decisions going forward, we will be including only the board, designated staff, and our outside counsel in our closed session. We will, in the near future, and when we are certain that we have all the information and answered all the questions, be requesting time with the full town council and the board of supervisors to brief them and present our plan for moving forward. Now, would someone like to lead us into?
Here is Ron.
Marshall.
Mark, you can do it.
I, Mark Baker, move that the Board of the EDA vote to go into closed meeting under the provisions of Section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act for the